Hi, this is Pat Moorhead with More Insights and Strategy. I am here with my awesome co-host, Daniel Newman of Future Research, and we are here for a 6-5 Insider. Daniel, I am excited, and how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. I am all set up here. I have finally moved into a place in beautiful and hot Austin, Texas. But now my setup in my background looks exactly like it did back in Chicago. So I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling wired in and connected, gig speed internet, and ready for a great 6-5 Insiders, Pat.
Yeah, so on the Insider, as you probably know, because you've probably watched this, we have some of the technology industry's most influential executives. And today we have a very special guest. But before I introduce him, he's actually on the shy run right now, so we're cheating a little bit. I do want to remind you, we are going to talk about some earnings here. And just a reminder, this show is for informational and educational purposes only. Don't make trades based on anything we say. Get an expert. So with that said, I would like to introduce Rob Thomas, Senior Vice President of Global Markets and a direct report to Arvind Krishna. Rob, how are you doing?
Pat, great to see you. And Daniel, nice to see you as well. Great to be here.
Yeah, I really appreciate your support and really appreciate it. We had some great speakers from IBM for the 6-5 Summit. And gosh, I think 50 to 100,000 people watch them. I think people are happy here. So Rob, new job, very, very exciting here. And thank you for coming on.
Yeah, look, it's great to have the chance to talk to you guys. As you alluded to, I was running IBM software business before. And in July, I took over the role of Global Markets, which is basically all of our countries and our go-to-market. So it's a super exciting time in IBM. This is the best job in IBM. So I'm really happy to have the chance to do it and, talk to you about where we're headed as a company.
Yeah, it's a great place to jump in. And this is pretty good timing too, Rob. We are in the midst of the earnings tidal wave for tech. This week there's going to be an avalanche of earnings. But last week, IBM really kicked off this season's big tech earnings wave with a really good overall result, right? I think it was one of the largest growth quarters in about 3 years, showing some really solid, progression in your hybrid cloud and some of the company's strategies right ahead of the spinoff of Kyndryl. So, you beat the street. Your guidance looked positive. I'd love to just start off here with your take on the earnings report and what should the market be taking away? And maybe what is the market not taking away that it should be?
I think it was a CNBC headline that was best, which said IBM's strongest revenue growth in 3 years. So that's something obviously we're happy about. And look, I think this is the culmination of a multi-year strategy. It started with the acquisition of Red Hat a couple years back. And then a year ago, we kind of pivoted the whole company to say we are focused on hybrid cloud and AI. I think it's a good example of IBM leading in areas that nobody else was really talking about. Nobody else was talking about hybrid cloud. So people were talking about AI, but I'd say everybody had a bit of a different definition. But I'd say we continue to make progress against that strategy. Hybrid cloud is relevant to any company that is going to use more than a single public cloud. And the more I talk to clients, the more I hear there's no way we would commit our entire business, our entire strategy to one public cloud. Therefore, hybrid is really becoming the default, meaning it is the reality. And so we're really encouraged about the momentum that we're seeing both in hybrid cloud and in AI.
Yeah, it's a great point, Rob. It's funny. I feel like we were in a stage maybe 10 years ago, I like to call the drunken sailor mode of the public cloud, which was, if it's not the public cloud, then it's worthless. And then it's funny, a couple of things happened a couple of years ago where some of the cloud native companies got on stage and announced hybrid solutions and said that this is the direction that the market is going. Now, my firm made this proclamation 10 years ago. but only, I would say, in the last two has it become popularized. So, yeah, that there is no question. The future is hybrid, and cloud native folks are going from right to the left, and traditional infrastructure going left to the right. And IBM's in a situation where it has a public and a private and a hybrid cloud. So I think it's a very good situation to be in. But there is a question here. No.
No, if I could comment on one thing, Pat, I do think this notion of a hyperscaler that says, hey, we're hybrid because we have an on-prem solution. I think there's a bit of a misnomer, because if it's only a one-way street, meaning your private answer only connects to your public, then that's not hybrid, because you're not actually providing choice. You're providing basically a point-to-point connection. A key part of when we say hybrid is hybrid multi-cloud. You can run on any public, you can create your own private cloud, you can modernize what you're doing on premise. I think that is unique to IBM and the combination of IBM and Red Hat, because we've built that out as an open source platform. We are the only ones that can actually make that claim and have it actually also be true, meaning we're not captive to just a single public cloud. I do think clients are seeing a lot of value in that approach.
Yeah, and I appreciate you pointing that out. And in the jargon soup of hybrid cloud, multi-cloud, hybrid multi-cloud, but it is important. And let's face it, multi-cloud is tough, because you've got to wrangle your data, you've got to wrangle your security and a couple other elements. And I do appreciate the investments that IBM is making there. But hey, I want to hone in on your role. What is being in charge of global markets? What does that do? What do you do? What do you do for a living?
I lead our go-to-market, which is how do we engage with clients around the world, and do it in a way that not only lives up to the expectation of IBM, which is a steward in every country in which we operate, how we work with ecosystem partners, but also how we work with clients and deliver for them. So that is my focus. I think one of the big opportunities we have in IBM right now is to have more and more of a technical go-to-market. Clients have spoken. They love the IBMers that roll up their sleeves, help them get products into production in their environment. And that's a big focus that I have, along with, as I was alluding to, working with business partners, whether they are resellers, other software companies. We've got many examples that we've announced in the last year, global systems integrators. We have a consulting business, but we also want to work with other global systems integrators. That's a pretty big shift in our strategy.
Your previous role, as you said, was running cloud and cognitive BU, and I'm curious. I mean, you've only been in the job, I guess a couple of weeks now. What did you bring, or what did you learn from your prior role to bring into the global markets role? I mean, certainly the technology conversation, because you ran the BU. Yes, you saw that. What else did you bring in to this new role?
I'd spent over a decade in software. So from engineering to product management, a bunch of different roles. And I'd say the thing that stuck with me through the years that I'll bring directly into this role is this notion of experiential selling, which is products have to be super easy for clients to find, try, buy, utilize, get service, kind of the whole buyer's life cycle, or what in IBM design language, we kind of call it the experiences of a product. And the big focus is how do we get a go-to-market that aligns with how customers want to buy, which often might just be a digital experience. Maybe they don't ever want to talk to an IBM seller. That has to be an intensive or an intentional thought in terms of how we design our go-to-market. So I think that role actually really prepared me to step into this role and have a quick impact.
Yeah, it seems that this is a very necessary space right now, and with so much change, so much dynamicism going on at IBM, this seems like a great role, and it's going to be really interesting, Rob, to follow sort of the progress that you're going to make and how you're going to redefine markets, create opportunities. And of course, I mentioned this when we were talking about earnings. I am really eager to see this post-Kyndryl spin-off version of IBM, because I've listened to what Arvind is focusing on in this hybrid cloud, and I've watched the acquisitions the company has been making, which clearly shows there is a services vision, but it all really wraps around things like hybrid, observability, multi-cloud. So I'm just watching move after move. And so it's going to be a great opportunity for us, as analysts to track your trajectory. But, I think the market's interested in hearing a lot more from IBM, Rob. I think the markets want to know where the growth is going to come from. We're in an industry where in cloud, where people have gotten used to sort of these wildly large growth numbers, but this is from startup, or inception businesses. Whereas IBM is a very mature business that's diversifying, growing, scaling. And so you're going to have a lot of chances to partake in helping drive that next wave of growth. What are the, I guess from your client perspective, from the market perspective, what are the major themes and challenges, that you came into this role hearing about, and how do you intend, and how does IBM intend to respond to them?
I think there's a unique opportunity where the new IBM is going to be about technology and transformation. And if you look across the industry, I don't think there's any other company that can actually do both of those things. There are many that can provide technology. They just drop off software or drop off hardware. There's many that can provide transformation skills. How do you modernize your applications? How do you modernize and integrate your data environment? The combination, though, of the two, technology and transformation, I think is pretty powerful. And it's something that we uniquely can do. I got to mention, there was this article, I think 2 weeks ago in the New York Times, that was kind of talking about the journey with Watson. And one is, I thought it was a very positive article, because it kind of talked about how we started with Jeopardy, which was kind of IBM research, and then we moved into experimentation. And there were a lot of services projects where we were experimenting, learning as we go. But as I said in that article, innovation is a process. And as we went through all that, we actually developed a very mature product business, which is now why you see announcements like Watson Studio, Watson Assistant, Watson Orchestrate. Like, we're delivering amazing products in AI. And I don't think we would have done that if we hadn't had the experience of kind of going through the different engagements that were early in the years of that. So I think that is what is unique about IBM, is we can help you with your technology. We can also do the transformation, and clients clearly see a lot of value in that.
Rob, is there anything specific you're doing to make IBM easier to work with?
That is at the top of my list, but 2 weeks in, I don't know. I've gotten a lot of input, which is super helpful. And it's something I want to make progress on. Now, look, here's the thing you have to remember. Clients ultimately trust IBM and love working with IBM. I hear that over and over again. But we could probably be a little faster sometimes. We could probably get to that answer quicker than we do. And so I want to figure out what we have to do to respond to that. But it's something I know we'll make progress on.
Yeah, it's a loaded question at the 2 week mark, but I'm just giving you a heads up. I think we're going to ask to bring you back, because in about a year, we'd love to hear more about that particular thing. Because, by the way, that's the comment, as industry analysts, we hear constantly about the big firms is, it's either sometimes the great technology hard to work with, or it's they're tremendous at delivering services, but their tech isn't quite up to the most front end of the innovation. So balancing those two things going forward and being able to deliver the most cutting edge and innovative technology concurrently with being easier to work with is going to be, it's a major task, but it's an opportunity, I think. And it's an opportunity in this juncture for, doing so during the reset. I want to lean in just a little bit here, because, you look at what you guys have done with Red Hat and in the acquisitions, there's these, I think there's this kind of three-headed approach. You guys have the whole modernize, automate, secure approach in terms of dealing with those challenges, but your customers have to be bringing you a plethora of challenges, not so much with IBM, challenges in terms of modernization, right? Challenges in terms of sticking with IT, how are you guys basically approaching those challenges? And this probably could really lean on your past role too, because you were doing this in your cloud and cognitive role. But what are the challenges that you're facing with the customers, and what are you thinking of doing to fix that? What are you going to bring in from your cloud and cognitive in this new role?
I think it's actually a pretty straightforward discussion. So if you're a client and I sit down with you, first question I ask is, hey, are you going to take everything that you do in technology and move it to a single public cloud? And obviously the answer pretty quickly is no. Well, we can't do that. We have data centers, we have SaaS applications, already have multiple cloud providers. I say, okay, so if that's true, that you're not going to do that, then by definition, you need a hybrid multi-cloud strategy. Yes. Okay. And you want to do that based on open source and open standards? Yes. At that point, when you think about containers, Kubernetes, Red Hat is the only answer for an open hybrid cloud platform. So you kind of set up a discussion where that is meeting clients with where they want to be. Then it becomes, okay, so how are you going to get value out of that platform? Well, you can focus on data and how do you get more insights out of your data. You can focus on automation. Can you automate the tasks that people don't really want to do in the first place? You can focus on security, and you can focus on different intelligent workflows like supply chain, like how you manage your assets. And so then the discussion becomes, what do you do on top of the hybrid cloud platform to get value for your business? And it typically falls in one of those 4 buckets. It's about automation, it's about making predictions on your data, it's about security, or it's about your business processes and your workflows. And what I find is in 10 minutes, we can get to common ground with a client about where they are in their journey and how IBM could start to help them. And I think that's a pretty freeing discussion because we find a lot of clients are thinking about those same exact topics.
So Rob, I know you're new in this role, but I know you sat across a lot of customers in your cloud and cognitive role. Are there any specific examples, customer names that you can use or you feel the most proud of? Like, hey, this is the way that it should operate.
Well, I think CVS spoke at our conference recently, and I think the story of how we're helping them with the COVID vaccine rollout is remarkable. It is one of the best examples of AI in production. And in this case, it's helping the whole US population. I think that's a pretty great example. Think about companies like PayPal that are now using Watson AI to drive all of their customer service. I think that's a great example. Companies like DoorDash. People don't think of a company like DoorDash as using IBM technology. But I'm telling you, something different is happening now. As we've made technology more accessible, easier to use, not only are we getting the big traditional customers that we've worked with to modernize their estates working with IBM, but we're also getting this longer tail of companies that didn't traditionally work with IBM. Planet Fitness is another one. Ancestry is another one. And it's really encouraging to see these new, can we still use the term born on the web? I'll use it. Born on the web type companies that are coming to IBM. I think that's really great to see.
I mean, by the way, I'm so glad you picked that. Daniel and I get hit with case studies all the time, but I will tell you, some of these cloud native companies that were using your technologies, absolutely, I tuned in to listen to that. And it is funny, I find as these companies get bigger and their operations get bigger, economically, they can't get locked into one vendor. We saw some really interesting Andreessen Horowitz editorial come out where they're even advising their investments to, start in the cloud, but make your way on-prem if you can, and this for control and cost purposes. But the second part is, it's been interesting how IBM has created SaaS capabilities, even with its mainframe, which mainframe is the most secure platform on the planet, for some of these born in the web companies to leverage. Anyways, I just found that fascinating.
Look, I think this was inevitable. I wrote a blog post, I think it was 2016, where I said, Like I understand public cloud and I understand the agility, but if your OpEx bills start to 10x, 100x, like that's going to be a problem. And I think what that Andreessen report was pointing out is now that problem is real. And so it is about how do you have a strategy that you can run the workload that you need to run in the best place, the most economical place. We just acquired a company called Turbonomic. The whole reason behind that was our bet on this field that's called AI ops, which is how do you use AI to better run your IT environments, your cloud environments. And with things like Turbonomic, you can start to automatically manage all of the resources that you're using, compute, network, storage. And when you have visibility into all the things that are running in your environment, I mean, there's companies where we've gone in and we've been able to cut their spend by 40%. 40%. And this is not like a 3-year project. This is like a 3-month project because there's so much duplication that's happened in the world of everybody running for just get me to public cloud. So things like our play with AI ops, Turbonomic, we acquired a company called Instana, which does observability at an application level. This is a real movement that's happening. And I think we're a critical player there. We can add a lot of value to clients.
Yeah, automation is huge. So, Rob, we talked about earnings. We talked about your new role, your old role, and what you brought into that. We talked about some of your clients' bigger needs. We talked about your reaction to that in regards to modernization, automation, and security. But I want to nail you down on one thing here, which is why should clients come to IBM, and what should we expect from IBM in the future?
I'll make it one word. It's all about trust. Are you really going to trust any other company for the core of your strategy, which for every company is becoming technology?
Yeah.
Or are you going to trust IBM? I think that's an easy answer because these are big, complex problems in many cases. Whether it's IBM technology that we bring to the table, things that have come from IBM research, or through ecosystem partners. Think about like the partnership we've announced with Palantir as an example. We are delivering technology in a way that nobody else is today. And ultimately, it's about who are you going to trust? Do you believe IBM will get the job done? Of course we will. And I think as these become higher stake projects, whether it's application modernization, whether it's AI, whether it's how do I, make a journey to the cloud, companies are going to choose the partner that they can trust, and that's going to be IBM.
And I got to add on there, Daniel, before you take us out, I really do appreciate you bringing the technology to the forefront, because IBM had a lot of technology and is one of the last companies to do research on the planet. Typically, it was talking business results first. And I do think that, IT needs to know that they're aligning with a technology leader, line of businesses, CEOs. They need to just make sure that they're winning in business. But I do think there's something special when you bring the two together. And I can't wait to see what you come up with by making technology more of the conversation, because I do believe that that is getting some of these cloud native companies a lot of business.
I think, and this is one of the places we've seen the most increase in speed in the last 2 years. Research technology that was behind what was called Project Debater, the AI debating machine, we got that into product in less than a year. And that's the guts behind the CVS story that I told you. We just announced Watson Orchestrate. This was technology out of research that basically helps you take work off your desk if you're a business analyst or a knowledge worker. That got from research into product in less than 6 months. So it's a new era of innovation at IBM for sure. And we're really excited about that. Now it's about how do we get this into hands of everybody? And I think we're making good progress on that.
Yeah, I can almost end us here where we started, Rob. The numbers are starting to speak for themselves. The fastest growth and acceleration. I think as you remove that, the drag that has been caused by GTS in terms of on the numbers overall over the past several quarters, we're going to start to see those percentage growths that I think a lot of the market are really looking for. I think one of the things I know when I was assessing the numbers, you had to peel back just a little bit below that initial cloud and cognitive to see how Red Hat was growing, to see how cloud and software, were growing in the 20%, double digits here, and you're going to start to see that get closer and closer to that top number, getting that faster and greater acceleration. I think that creates the excitement in the market that you're talking about that leads to that trust, because the trust is a byproduct of people saying yes, people using the products, and then of course, like you just did, letting you share these examples in the market, whether that's behind private doors in boardrooms or even better, publicly on forums like ours. But Rob, it was great having you here. Thanks so much for just a few weeks in the job, letting us, ask you anything. And clearly we asked you some things you weren't expecting, which makes for an even better pod.
Well, thanks, guys. I love your show. Thanks for what you're doing. Keep it up. And thanks for having me on. I'd love to come back on in a year if that's the right time and update you on how we're doing.
Love to hear that. Thanks, Rob. Whew, that was good.
Yeah, what a conversation. Like I said, I think we hit him from all different angles. We asked him some questions that I think he's going to have way more insight in a year when we bring him back. But I think the experience running the cloud and cognitive business clearly was dealing with some of the biggest, most important parts of the business, right under Arvind and everything he has been talking about from the moment he took the leadership role, the CEO role of the company. It was all about hybrid cloud. And we're seeing a lot of that in action. I expect Rob's going to be a person that we're going to be listening to quite a bit in the coming quarters.
Yeah, if it's not evident, I want to see IBM pull that tech out, because they're doing real research, okay? And I know people want to see, okay, what came out of the research. It's there. Like I've looked under the covers, Daniel. It's there. They just don't expose it to the world as much as I think they need to in the LOB. So we're going to put it that. Great conversation. So if you liked what you heard, hit that subscribe button. You can catch the 6.5 Insider, and all the 6.5 Summit everywhere where you find podcasts and YouTube. You can even see us on Twitter and LinkedIn. So with that, I want to thank everybody for a great show. Thank IBM and Rob Thomas for coming on too. Have a great week.